a few miles inland from the Pacific Ocean at Monterey, California, Laguna Seca Raceway waits. The championship will be decided today in the IndyCars. Consider the contenders, beginning with Unser Jr. Now, despite published reports, he says that there is no place for him at Benetton or Williams in Formula One. And so he expects to be driving in the IndyCars next season. To win a championship, he today must win the race. Then there's Michael Andretti, and his possibilities are a little more subtle. He must finish 4th or better, while at the same time Bobby Rahal finishes 13th or worse, if Michael is to score a 2nd consecutive championship. And then there is Bobby Rahal. He must simply drive to 4th or better if he wants his 3rd IndyCar crown. And it's a giant record crowd that has found its way inland of the Monterey Peninsula here. The cars already set on the grid, 28 Indy cars, 14 rows, the rows of 2. The starter, Nick Finoro, who, by the way, today will be flagging his last IndyCar race. He has flagged the entire career that the kart IndyCars have existed. And here at the track today, another very special moment. To start the engines, Robert and Linda Moselle, the son and daughter of the great Lee Moselle, who passed away last month. It was their father's guiding hand that led Laguna Seca to the great racetrack it is today.
Son of a man who was much missed.
Drivers.
Start your engines.
Linda and Robert.
So for the last time of the 1992 season, the IndyCars roar into life. A truly magnificent field here today, 28 cars, much to prove in each of those cockpits. We will focus on the battle for the championship, but at the same time, remember, there is a race here as well. And remembering, too, that throughout the field, there are many drivers here with something to prove, looking for a further career in the IndyCars. We'll try to keep you abreast of all those stories. So now, behind the PPG pace cars, the IndyCars are ready to roll out. Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti are away. The field out and rolling on their parade laps. The largest field of IndyCars since the Indianapolis 500. Here's the diehard starting grid with Michael Andretti on the pole, the defending champion at Laguna Seca. Alongside is Paul Tracy, a 3rd front row start for this exciting sophomore. He was quickest in the morning warm-up. In the 2nd row, it's Emerson Fittipaldi. He's won 3 of the last 5 IndyCar events. Alongside is Scott Goodyear, the Michigan 500 winner, currently 5th in the points. In row number 3, it is Mario Andretti. Last week, he was voted as the driver of the quarter century. Alongside is Bobby Rahal, a 4-time winner here at Laguna Seca. In row number 4, it's John Andretti, seeking his 2nd career victory on a road course. Alongside Unser Jr., the runner-up here the last 2 years. In row number 5, Scott Pruitt, his final drive for True Sports Racing. And alongside is Eddie Cheever, taking his final ride with the Chip Ganassi team. In row number 6, it's Mike Groff, driving for A.J. Foyt and Jimmy Vasser. In row 7, Raul Boisel and Scott Brayton. The 8th row, Danny Sullivan and Stefan Johansson. Ted Trappis is inside the 9th row with Eric Bachelard alongside. In the 10th row, it's Hiro Masusta and Brian Till. Row 11, Christian Danner and Didier Tays. In row 12, Willie T. Ribbs and Buddy Lazier. In row 13, it's Dennis Vitolo and IndyCar rookie Tony DiTomaso. And the 14th and final row, Benicio Salmi and Finland's Tero Palmroth. Those are the drivers. Here is the challenge, this wonderful course here at Laguna Seca. Lots of uphills, downhills, and plenty of character.
Laguna Seca is an interesting mixture here of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. There are numerous surface changes here also. And in fact, the older surface is very abrasive and wears these racing tires out at an alarming rate. Unusual elevation changes here are a unique feature at Laguna Seca, but the most famous corner of all here is the corkscrew. Here it is here. It's still a shocker to first-time participants here at Laguna Seca. The most popular passing area, well, it's right down after this corner here, the braking zone for turn 11.
When we look ahead to 84 hard-fought laps, race record on this, a newer circuit for the past couple of years, 103.6 miles an hour. We expect the stops at about lap 33, though they're open all the way to 35. How do they do on natural terrain circuits? Michael Andretti, here's how he's done this year, and then Bobby Rahal. Consider that he's had an excellent year on other portions of the course, but not on the road courses. But weigh that off with the fact that Bobby Rahal has won 4 times on this circuit. And now the field begins to roll up the hill. Nick Venoro has the green flag, and we are ready and running at Laguna Seca, California, as already Michael Andretti shows what he is capable of. Drops across the front of Paul Tracy. Emerson Fittipaldi drops into 3rd place. That's Scott Goodyear that is in 4th now.
Michael got the all-important drop on Paul Tracy. He knew well that Paul Tracy is of the brave, aggressive style, just like Michael's, and Paul Tracy knew if he could outbrake Michael into the first corner, he might beat him. Michael took the advantage.
All of the field safely through the first 3 sets of turns. Michael Andretti continues to lead and pull away. Right behind him is Tracy. There's Fittipaldi. Look at Unser Jr. though, as he starts his charge up to the front. He moved inside of Scott Goodyear on that last corner. Now they begin to climb the hill.
The opening laps when the tires are very cool, the brave drivers can pull off some unusual moves. Al Jr. is doing that on this opening lap.
Down through the corkscrew for the first time as the elevation falls off very rapidly. This is a roller coaster ride for the drivers. Down to a right-hand turn. Paul Tracy runs in 2nd. Michael begins to inch away here on this first lap. The pit entrance is right on this part of the circuit as well.
On the opening laps, if you can pull away a little cushion on the 2nd place car, it often gives you that type of advantage you need and secure to give you a continuing advantage for the rest of the race. But Michael Andretti is always, we know, we've seen many times, spectacular in the early parts of these races.
Emerson Fittipaldi and then Mario Andretti sits behind Emo in 4th place. Then Scott Goodyear. Al Unser Jr. was not able to resolve that battle in his favor and has fallen back behind Goodyear.
This is the infield section here. Very fast right-hander, 160 miles an hour through there. Then a quick braking area.
And as we watch Mario, we wonder what role might he play in this day. Could he be a blocker for his son and help him along with the championship? Behind Scott Goodyear, there is Bobby Rahal appearing for the first time as he tries to work his way up so carefully to the front of the field. We ride with him now.
This is the uphill run to the corkscrew. Slowest part of the racetrack. And the downhill run. This is like a roller coaster here. It gets faster and faster the further down the hill he goes.
And one car off and on the course very quickly. Yellow flag only in that zone as he gets off and on. And now we're back with Bobby Rahal. Rahal runs in 6th place. At the front of the order, it is Michael Andretti and then Paul Tracy, followed by Tracy's teammate Emerson Fittipaldi.
Great performance by Scott Goodyear here, still ahead of Bobby Rahal as we watch him here. So little testing done by this team, and by far their best road course qualifying, and Rahal has to follow him. That's the rear wing of the Mackenzie car, and Rahal has followed him lap after lap now and is not able to make up that deficit to Goodyear.
Closest fight on the course right now is this 3-way battle led by Scott Goodyear at this point. You can see Eddie Cheever closing in as well. This is where the point contenders run at this moment in the race, and we'll keep you updated in this way throughout the run as well. Bobby Rahal, of course, running where he is, really has to move up because Michael Andretti is in the point scoring position at this moment.
Now, something we're going to watch for here is all throughout the testing that the teams did before race weekend here, they found that the tire wear was phenomenal, particularly on the older surfaces that they're on right now. It's very abrasive. It wears the rubber away. So everybody is mindful that the handling may change on these cars. So they're going to let things settle down and see how good or bad the handling becomes on these individual cars.
Report from the course marshals earlier that Eddie Cheever there in the 9 car got together with Scott Pruitt in the opening lap, so we're watching his car for possible damage. You can see that behind him with John Andretti and the rest, a nice battle is developing here. Looking there, you can see the damage on the side of that car. Now, let's go to Gary Gerald, get an update on this machine.
Paul, after that contact, there was concern that Cheever may have had some of the plumbing, either the oil cooler or radiators in the left side pod, damaged, but the crew thinks that everything is all right. Eddie continues out there on course. It's a battle, we understand, for 8th, 9th, and 10th positions.
Exactly what it is, and there is nothing on that car that seems to be slowing Eddie down.
Difficult weekend for Cheever. Broke a drive flange in the early session, missed that, and that is critical on road courses when you miss a complete practice session, because you tend to fall further and further behind your competition.
Just behind Bobby Rahal, that is, of course, Eddie Cheever, and then John Andretti follows him as we watch the leaders come through. Here comes Mario Andretti running in 4th place with that entire battle lined up behind him, and they are all closing on one another.
They are closing. Good, tight battle here. Mario said this morning he really likes the handling of the car. They think they have a very good race car. He really had no complaints whatsoever. The only thing he was thinking about was the outcome, not from his point of view, but obviously from Michael's.
One of the spectators here this weekend is Nigel Mansell, who will step into Michael Andretti's car for next season, the reigning world champion in Formula One. And one of the things he mentioned last night at dinner to me was that he really enjoys the camaraderie, the easygoing spirit of this, and the fact that most of these teams don't race as teams, they race as individual cars. But today at Newman Haas, we could see some teamwork.
Oh, absolutely, we can see teamwork. Remember, these championships are so vital. We touched on it in the opening. There is such a huge amount of financial benefits that goes to a team that is on top. Everybody likes to follow the winner and the team that's on top. Well, Michael's on top now, but look at Tracy, inch ever closer as these laps go on here.
8 laps complete. Michael Andretti has led from the green. The championship battle continues. At this moment, it is being controlled by Michael Andretti. With Paul Tracy trying to catch Michael Andretti. And at the moment, it is still a matter where Michael Andretti holds firmly onto a championship crown, but Bobby Rahal is trying to inch his way forward. Interestingly enough, these are not the fastest cars on the circuit. The fastest car throughout the entire early run has been that car sitting back in 3rd, number 5, Emerson Fittipaldi, as they encounter Buddy Lazier and move around him on the circuit. We're at a point now where with the sun shining down, the tires are in question, and they're also running in traffic.
That's right. I think these Penske cars are very well set up here for these conditions. I think Paul Tracy is going to be able to inch nearer to Michael. Mario, one of the complaints he had this morning was that when the tires do go off, the rear tires go first. Oh, as we watch Rahal, he's all over the back of Goodyear here, but as the rear tires go off, the cars get loose, and of course, when you get a loose condition, it only gets worse as the race goes on.
Rahal, of course, needs 4th position. If he is to score a championship, that's 2 positions up from here. Look at the 2 of them locked between Tracy and Michael Andretti as they come past traffic at the back of the field in the first corner.
Michael is very, very difficult to pass. He's very good at defensive driving. We'll watch his line because he will tighten up the entry to the corners, making it very difficult for Tracy to make a move down the inside. But remember, Tracy is one of the bravest men now in racing. Style very much like Michael.
And now Unser Jr. at the edge of the course, pointed backwards. Looks like he lost it in the first turn, and if he can only get it going,
and he's got to
get back in the fight, but is the engine dead or does he have to wait for traffic?
Well, he's got to wait for traffic if the engine's running, but I'm not sure. It looks, no, it's not running. He's dead. He's going to have to get a tow truck.
And there comes the Indycar safety team to give him help and get him started. But this could be the final moment for Unser Jr. in any bid at all he may have had for the championship. He was running 10th. He's falling further backward.
They did such a good job all year to bring this new development Galmer car, but as we watch him here, the championship is going out the window.
And look at little Al. He says, go, push me, get me out of here as fast as you can. They've got him started. The engine restarted quickly. That was very lucky on a warm day for little Al. He's back into the fight.
That's one of the nice things Mansell will enjoy next year. If ever he spins and stalls the engine, he can get a push start. In Formula One, your day is over if you stop the engine.
Moving toward the pits here is a strong commitment. There you see Roger Penske and the team waiting for Paul Tracy. He would have to swing way wide on the exit of this corner, which he does, and he heads down the pit road. His pit is just around this corner. Gary Gerald is there.
Paul, you talked about the tire wear. This is visual evidence. This is very early. They're now committed to a 3-stop race. Tracy watching intently as Penske gives him the hold sign. A problem momentarily at the left front. Now everybody's clear. He comes off the jack and 11 seconds. Excellent stop for Tracy.
Spectacular performance by that Penske crew. Of course, they're among the best. Jerry Breon back there working the right rear. Another car under tow at the edge of the course in the first turn, and you can see Paul Tracy rejoins in that battle at the bottom of the top 10. Actually rejoins the course in 8th place. So while he lost second, he really didn't fall that far backward.
Well, I can't quite grasp yet why they could make a decision that the tires had gone off, because he was running every bit as fast as Michael. So we're going to have to wait to see how this plays out. I thought for a minute maybe he ran a light fuel load, and that put him out of sync with the pit stops. But however, that's an unusual move by Roger Penske. Hey, he's made unusual moves in the past and has come out on top of a gamble.
To commit him to a 3 pit stop race at first blush, it's pretty hard to figure out what that strategy might be.
Here's an interesting situation. Rahal again, under heavy braking, closes right up behind the rear wing of Scott Goodyear's car. But look what happens here. This is the downhill run to the fast left-hander. Goodyear seems to be able to pull out a nice cushion. And here's the critical area here for Rahal. He's too far behind Goodyear to make a legitimate passing move down the inside.
And of course, with Scott Goodyear in front, running in 4th place, that's exactly the position that Bobby Rahal needs. If Rahal can get there, then he can grasp that championship crown as well. So Paul Tracy rejoins the fight in 8th place. It's John Andretti that is just in front of him, and then that battle that is Cheever, Rahal, and Goodyear sits about 100 yards ahead on the course. Paul Tracy now has to make up time as best he can as he sweeps down through the corkscrew. At the top of the order, Michael Andretti is still very much in command here, but Emerson Fittipaldi has been the fastest car on the course thus far. Rahal looks to be fighting the car.
Oh, this is a great battle again, and again, the corkscrew is where they close up. But now look at Goodyear. He has to cope with traffic here. This is our favorite turn 11 spot. Oh, Goodyear shoots down the inside.
Very carefully they move down the inside as well, and have to move around the slower traffic just behind them, but both stay in contact as they climb the hill across the start-finish line and alongside the pit.
Look at this. This is getting dicey here. Now remember, Goodyear's position is the safety comfort zone for Rahal. If he can get that position, he will win the championship, irrespective of what anybody else does.
Now look ahead, out of this camera, the car in front on the right there, Scott Goodyear, because they're reporting we've got a car into the wall, and it looks to be Scott. No, that looks Brian Till. Brian Till has caught the barrier up at the top of the hill, coming as you begin to climb up toward the corkscrew. But the report, what I was going to say, is that Scott Goodyear, the corner workers, are reporting a possible fire at the back of his car. Remember, Jan Vikas told you earlier he had a similar problem in the warm-up this morning. And we're looking for Goodyear now, and you see he is behind Rahal. So while the situation with Till occurred, Rahal was able to get around him, but it may not have mattered because we do anticipate a black flag to Scott Goodyear to tell him to come into the pits, and that's exactly what he's doing right now, to take a look at the back of that car. So let's watch as he comes to a stop and see if we can see what the officials were looking at. You see one of the IndyCar officials jumping down right there. There is Billy Camphouse and another IndyCar official as they swarm at the back of the car, fire extinguishers in hand to make sure that this is not a serious problem. This, of course, is exactly what Bobby Rahal needed. Though Rahal did get past him on the course, it was because Scott Goodyear was already slowing down. And now the crown changes hands. Bobby Rahal is in the position to leave this day as the champion.
Difficult situation for Goodyear. Remember, Jan Vikas told us earlier about that huge blow-up in the morning warm-up. That was only a couple of hours ago, and that, unfortunately, has probably been some of the root cause of his being possibly out of this race.
So hard to change something as complex as an IndyCar racing engine without getting everything aligned properly, all the hoses connected, and do it in a hurry. It's a very complex piece of machinery.
And of course, we don't know at this stage whether something fell off, something got loose, or else they had another engine problem.
This is the corkscrew. It is, in fact, here at... Oh, and we've got a problem in the pits. As Scott Brayton, he heard a squeal of brakes. It sounded like he got around. The onboard camera shows him there as he tries to get moved. They have to get some tires out of the way.
And a huge amount of time lost here. He lost it under braking, it seems, on the way into his pit.
Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, when I was just finishing with Scott Goodyear, you also heard the screeches. What happened was Scott Brayton came in, got mixed up with Hiro Matsushita, and got the thing turned completely backwards. It looks as though the car will be okay. They've lost a lot of time. However, remember, it's full course caution right now. Scott Brayton, if he can beat the pace car out, won't have lost too much time. But boy, it was harem-scarum, to use Derek's phrase here a minute ago. Paul?
I'll tell you what, it shows how calm and collected you can be on Vickers, because despite hearing it, I just assumed somebody was locking the brakes on a stop. He didn't even break stride. Scott Brayton is back into the fight. Now, we were saying that this is the corkscrew, and it, in fact, is the signature turn here at Laguna Seca Raceway with its tremendous elevation change. Still under a full chorus yellow at the Codilux Processing 300 with Michael Andretti at the front of the field after the first set of stops. Fittipaldi just behind him. Paul Tracy moving back up into the fight. Mario Andretti in fourth, sitting just in front of Bobby Rahal, but with Rahal back down in fifth place. So he lost a position on those pit stops, and it is a position that Rahal would like to get back so that he can assure a championship. Michael Andretti is lined up just behind the pace car. And if the points were to be awarded right now, Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal would be in a tie. And Emerson Fittipaldi, then Unser Jr, Scott Goodyear. Now, what that means is now that the tie is resolved by the number of wins, and that might end up even at the end of the day, so you have to go to second place, maybe even to the number of third place finishes to determine who the champion would be. To make it simple for everybody, Bobby Rahal really needs to come up that one position.
Well, we said it earlier, that's the comfort zone he needs. He needs to have the championship fight in his own destiny. He's got to get fourth place to be able to have control of his own destiny.
Michael Andretti picked the pace up plenty early as he came sweeping down the hill, and the pace car came off the course, and they are going back to the green flag with the Penske team fighting between itself for second and third place. Fittipaldi second, Tracy third. Mario Andretti, now Bobby Rahal comes down the hill as John Andretti makes a move inside of Eddie Cheever, and John Andretti gets Cheever. That's Unser Jr. lined up just behind him. So on that start, John Andretti got a great roll on Cheever, and in doing so got past.
He did get past, taking advantage again of a brave move when you're not on warm tires up to full operative temperature. It's a brave move and a risky move, and he did manage to pull it off. But now Tracy is back in the hunt here for this race. Remember, they're all on fresh tires. The cars are very good for at least 5 or 6 laps.
And Tracy, of course, when he made his stop under that caution, is back in sequence with the rest of the field. So they have all completed, in essence, their first stop of the day. And Paul Tracy managed it under the full course caution, as did everyone else. So he's back in the cycled order. Bobby Rahal, fifth place. In front of him, Mario Andretti. We haven't mentioned Mario much today, but he's looking very strong.
Looks very strong, and now Rahal is replaced the battle with Goodyear. Mario slips into that position, and it will be very difficult for Rahal to pass Mario. He is the master at driving defensively. Remember, they're fighting for position, so Mario is entitled to whatever piece of road he wants to use, and he will make it difficult for Rahal.
And of course, Mario has something to gain in doing so. It is, after all, his son that leads this race, and his son that he would like to see go on to a championship. So they could be playing some team tactics here in the Newman-Haas stable. We talked, too, about possible team play here as we got a glimpse there behind Paul Tracy of Mario Andretti climbing the hill. With the terrain changes and everything here, how good is the two-way radio communication? Can Mario be very aware of where he is and where everyone else is?
Very aware all times. Radio communications is at such a state of the art right now. You can talk freely, easily, understandably, backwards and forwards, driver to crew chief to driver. And also, as a backup system, he'll have all the information he needs on his pit board.
John Andretti in sixth place after getting by Eddie Cheever on that restart. And you can see Rahal just in front of him, Cheever just behind. Jan Beekes has an update on John.
That's right, Paul. We checked in with team owner Jim Hall and said during that pit stop, they made those tire pressure changes. We have found that that is what most of the teams are doing here at this track because the cars are getting loose, just like Derek Daly predicted. In fact, the rear tires are overheating, and they are letting pressure out of the rear tires to try and get grip back. Maybe that's what gave him the advantage, getting by Cheever. Paul?
fact, when you look backwards from time to time, you can see the glint of the bright sun here today on the suspension, and that's causing some tire problems. Jan Beekes, if you are still with us, is there any news on the status of John Andretti's ride for next year? Could he possibly stay with Hall VDS?
Well, Paul, that's what the speculation is, that he might stay. I would say 3 or 4 races ago, the word here on the street was he was gone for sure. But he has had very strong performances, and they may decide to reevaluate everything at the end of the season. And in Jim Hall's words, they're reevaluating the entire team from top to bottom, and who knows what we'll see next year.
Well, I hope Jim Hall is watching John now, because he is trying to do battle with one of the winningest guys in the series, Bobby Rahal, who is definitely in the points fight. And John Andretti is trying to find a way to get past him. Now, Rahal really doesn't want to give this position up.
Oh, this is it now. Rahal doesn't need a fight coming from behind him, but I'm sure, Emerson's slowing down. Emerson's in trouble, big trouble.
Emerson Fittipaldi was running in second place, climbing the hill on the pit straight. He suddenly began to slow. He moves to the side and begins to fall down through the order. And, of course, what that means is there goes Rahal past, and he moves up in the order.
And the key word again, let the race unfold. That's what's happening here. Emerson has now made it 1 position easier for Rahal, because Rahal is now back in that necessary 4th place.
And what could be wrong with Fittipaldi? He's just made his stop. He's just taken on fuel and tires. Has to be something more serious than just the ordinary.
Running very slowly, so the engine obviously still works. Maybe transmission problems. I'd say it probably is transmission when you're trying to make your way slowly back to the pit lane.
Scott Pruitt in the pits, the True Sports car. This is the last ride this year. Indication is that he was involved in contact with Eric Bachelor on the circuit, and they're trying to get that right front off. There they get it.
There was contact. We're looking closely to see, can we see any damage, but we can't see any on Scott Pruitt's car.
So Michael Andretti continues his lead in the Codilux Processing 300. Laguna Seca, California. Here's the interval back from Michael Andretti, the leader of the race. The key element here, of course, though, is that Bobby Rahal is running in 4th, which is where he needs to be, but he is still straddled by Mario Andretti and John Andretti. In fact, Andretti's are running 1st, 3rd, and 5th in this track, and all of these guys have something to prove. Rahal would love to get past Mario and be a little more solid in his positioning. This gentleman, Emerson Fittipaldi, has fairly serious problems, Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, the man who's won 4 this year and was in the championship up through Nazareth, finds himself now with a throttle linkage problem. At first they thought it was electronics. They changed the electronics. Then they identified the throttle linkage problem. What they're trying to do is wire the throttle open. It can function if they can get that done. So Emerson patiently waits, if indeed you can be patient in this situation.
Bobby Rahal, car 12, 4th place, exactly where he needs to be. It's got to be driving his owner, Carl Hogan, crazy. He's done a lot of racing here. Carl is so animated, so fun to watch at the tracks.
Carl's first test session here was in the early 80s when he brought a Can-Am team here. And, you know, we're in a military zone here. Fort Ord Army Center is right next door to us. They often have training sessions. Well, Carl sat in the pit lane waiting for his Can-Am car to come around turn 11 one time. And all of a sudden, tanks came up over the top of the hill, which really surprised him.
Of course, they do a lot of military maneuvers here at Fort Ord, the home of the 7th Infantry Light. Here, after 35 laps, the Valvoline race summary, Michael Andretti dominating, but that's exactly what he needs to do, what he should do. The average speed of the race with that full course yellow fell below the race record of 103.6 miles an hour. And, of course, we had that 1 full course caution because of the accident involving car 24 and Brian Till. Terrell Pomeroth is out. Scott Goodyear, you heard the report. Willie T. Ribbs, his teammate, is out as well. And we are still waiting for a full update, though we believe it to be good that Brian Till is okay. As soon as we get the official word from the Indycar Communications Department, we'll let you know that as well. Emerson Fittipaldi is back on the track. He talked about wiring the throttle open. More wiring the throttle so it'll work. It's certainly not a full open throttle.
Oh, no. It would be impossible to drive these cars if you did not have the throttle retard fully whenever you take your foot off the situation. So it obviously wasn't transmission. However, it was a mechanical failure in that throttle linkage system.
We give you now the full field rundown, and Emerson Fittipaldi comes back into the fight well down in the order in 24th place. Gary Gerald on the throttle on Emerson's car. You have an update.
Paul, I think it's a case of clarification. I'm glad you pointed out. We didn't mean to allude that it would be throttle wide open. They wire one of the butterflies open, as we understand it, and that helps get that whole process going. But then you wonder how effectively will the engine be able to run with that butterfly open. That's what Emerson is now finding out.
Now let's take a look at what happened just a few seconds ago. Keep an eye on 47 Brian Till.
Jimmy Vasser tries to slide down the inside of Christian Danner under braking, and watch what happens. Again, he locks the rear brakes. Right here, rear brakes lock up, gets it sideways, now it's lost. Look at Danner. He almost collects Danner on the way, but then Jimmy Vasser backs it off the curve, and that's why the record truck has to go out there.
Thinking about the accident to Brian Till, it is, of course, Jimmy Vasser, who, by the way, has tremendous success on this course and is very well known out here in California for all of his racing exploits. Again, they're looking for a good season again next year at Hey-Ho Cole Racing, and they may just get engines and chassis from some of the front runners, and they're looking for a possibility of some Ford power. They did get Jimmy Vasser push-started and back onto the track without incident.
Rick Cole, one of the co-owners, of course, famous for the Rick Cole car auctions, is one of the owners here. He said, yes, there are big plans and exciting plans for this team next year. And Jimmy Vasser, as a driver, is held in very high regard by a lot of people, and I believe he has been supported so far, I think, by Rick Gallis a little bit.
Exactly. And by the way, since you mentioned Rick Cole, at the Palm Springs Vintage Car Race in November, a bunch of us are going to go out and roast Roger Penske there. And, of course, all the money goes for the Corvette Museum. It's going to be a great day. It's nice when you can get Roger and he can't respond for about 20 minutes. Emerson Fittipaldi running 23rd once again. But Bobby Rahal, if his job was to take it easy and not take chances, he just violated that rule.
Well, he had a potential headache situation behind him because John Andretti was running so well and so strong and was threatening a move on Rahal. So he was anxious to claw his way past Mario, and he did it in the safest place on the track, down the front straight past the pits, where all his crew members can see him clearly.
So Bobby Rahal decided, Mario Andretti, why don't you let your cousin, your nephew in this case, worry you for a little bit. I want to get out of this battle. You saw Carl Hogan there, the partner with Bobby Rahal in this team, new this year. Here they were as they climbed up across the start-finish line.
And what happened was, coming out of turn 11, that's where Rahal set Mario up. He got on the power underneath him and was able to draw alongside as he went under the starter stand. And then, of course, look at Mario here. Look, he has a little poke down the inside, and Rahal closes the door.
So Bobby Rahal moves forward, and here it is from his onboard camera as they come off the last corner and onto the pit straight.
Okay, Mario gets held up by traffic. That's what it is. And Rahal gets on the power earlier, and now the pass is already made. It's already over here. Mario slides down the inside. Oh, look at this. Eric Bachelar's car. Well, they'll need one of those MyJack cranes to get that car out of there now, because it doesn't have that front suspension.
Eric, the former Indy Lights champion, climbs out of the MyJack car. You can see that there is severe damage as he's brushed a wall somewhere in this section of the track with the right front. Fortunately, he did climb out without injury, and might have been contact with this machine. That's Tony DiTomaso, who is driving in his first IndyCar race, and he is down through the corkscrew trying to limp his way back to the pits. That tire could do some fairly serious damage to that car if it flails any more than it already is.
You got to drive very, very slowly back to the pit lane, because loose rubber like that can destroy the bodywork and the suspension of our friend Tony's car here. Tony came from Italy to pick up an IndyCar career here, try and get it off the ground. And I think they'll probably just fix that left rear and send him out again.
One of the things that this track at Laguna Seca is used for throughout the year is the Russell School of Driving, where they put you in their Formula Fords or their own Russell cars. And that's, by the way, one of the things that they teach in that first turn. Doesn't do any good to pass him in the first part of the turn, because he's going to get you back, and we've got a car into the barrier once again.
Tony DiTomaso, our friend, this is the second incident we've seen him involved in. He was obviously able to get back on the racetrack, but Dennis Vitolo, living life on the edge here, looks as if he was also involved in that incident with Tony DiTomaso.
So two cars in trouble at lap 53, 84 laps the scheduled distance. Will the officials decide that now it is time to bring out the second full course caution of the day? We'll keep our eye on stand. Let's go pit side, Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, what you're looking at right now is the orange hat of Jim Prescott. That is how Bobby Rahal knows where to stop. If, in fact, we do have a full course yellow, he will be the first person to jump out there. That's where Bobby Rahal knows to stop. His team leader runs out there. He always looks for that orange hat. Paul?
And if you look backwards, you got a glimpse of it for a moment on Carl Hogan's head. There it is again. Look at those headsets, all the electronics in there. They're trying a wonderful new gadget of noise canceling. They feed noise back into the headset that's happening around them. It cancels out the noise already there. I've had that headset on, and it's amazing. Here is Bobby Rahal's team getting ready as a full course yellow comes out, and Carl Hogan directs his team, get those guys back out of the way. We're ready to go into the pits. Michael Andretti makes his turn down into the pits. So Michael Andretti stops the very first pit position. In front of him, Paul Tracy comes in as well.
And here's the hear 'em, scare 'em time. Can the crew of Michael keep him in the lead? And what can Penske's crew do?
Michael Andretti on lap 53. They're taking time with the stop. They want to get it perfectly correct. There comes the fuel connector out. The team pushes him away. 15.8 seconds. He gets out ahead of Paul Tracy. Maintains his position as they come up the hill, across the start-finish line, and back into the fight. But remember, it is under a full course caution because they have two cars that need help at the edge of the race course. And here comes Bobby Rahal in, Jan Beekes.
Paul, this is the final pit stop in 1992 for Rahal Hogan Racing. It all comes down to this. This could be the championship. They made a deal with Penske Racing and Emerson Fittipaldi to make sure he wasn't here. He's got a clear shot to get out of here. It's all down to the fuel. Oh, look out, there's three cars in the pit lane. Oh, almost sold it. Wow, this is incredible, Paul.
Danny Sullivan right there, Andretti right there, as here comes Bobby Rahal roaring out. He did not get into the side of anybody, and that's some pretty skillful driving on everybody's part.
And if you are faint of heart, do not get involved in even watching live what happens here sometimes. But John Andretti is in trouble here.
John Andretti, as they bring him back to the pits, I don't know if this is an overshoot and they brought him back, or if he stalled pulling away. Here is the situation. This was as Rahal was coming out. Watch John Andretti, the number 8 Pennzoil car down at the bottom.
Here comes Rahal. Mario just squeezes by. Sullivan gives him a bit of room, and Bozell slips in behind both of them.
And as he does that, apparently John had to chock the brakes, kill the engine, and they had to pull him back in. Another view, same situation.
There's Rahal, squeezes out. Sullivan sees him. And now look at John, has to jump on the brakes. Unfortunately, that may have cost John a position, a lot of positions, and he was trying to give Rahal the road he needed.
It, in fact, drops him down to 9th in the order. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, I was going to give you an audio update on what happened to John Andretti, but you're so quick. You saw it there. That's what he did. He killed it and got it refired. Hopefully, he'll stay on that lead lap.
We are under a full course caution while they clean the race course. And during this yellow, we had a flurry of pit stops, and this was the end of one of them.
And Mario just escapes. Rahal almost touches Sullivan, but as Bozell shot into his pit lane, poor John Andretti was forced to get on the brakes and kill the engine. Here it is in real. Oh, whoa! See him fly by? And now there's a lot happening to his inside, his left side at the same time.
And don't look down into your rearview mirrors, Bobby. You won't appreciate what you see behind you. Now look at the way that they have lined up behind the pace car. With Emerson Fittipaldi, the car immediately behind the pace car, but he is running in 21st position. He is 4 laps off of the leader's pace, so he could become a factor in this restart, as well as in the race itself. As they sweep for the final turn, keep an eye on Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. They could work together. Michael Andretti is between them. Michael Andretti has to look for racing room as the green flag comes out.
Well, Emerson now is going to make things difficult for Michael. Tracy knows that. Hopes he gets a bit of help here, but oh, look at Michael. Moves down to the inside to block that braking zone.
It'll be interesting, too, to watch Fittipaldi because in the early laps of the race, he was the fastest car on the course. But as we know, he is suffering with throttle linkage problems. The butterfly's wired full open in some cases, and so he should not be nearly as fast. And the leaders should be on top of him once again very quickly and then trying to get past him.
And Christian Danner is another backmarker who is involved in this leading group, and he actually moved aside, allowed Rahal to go through. So now Rahal has a clear run at Mario.
So the order as they came back to the green flag remains unchanged. Michael Andretti leads the race. Paul Tracy is second. Mario Andretti third. And there's the 12th car, Bobby Rahal. He is in fourth place. Eddie Cheever is fifth. But the key is this man, Bobby Rahal. He's in the position that he needs to be if he is to finish this day with a championship crown.
And Paul Tracy has been one of the stars and the revelations of this season. He only has this opportunity left to take away a win, which will be a tremendous feat. So he doesn't really care what's going on in this championship fight. He wants to just look after himself and try and get by Michael. And if he does, that plays into Rahal's hands.
Paul Tracy, of course, replacing Rick Mears in the number 4 Marlboro car. Started that replacement at the race at Detroit. His primary job with Penske Racing, though, of course, was as a testing driver.
And amusing stories come out of his testing program. He'll leave here in a couple of weeks' time and go to Nazareth and do another 500-mile test.
Whoa, stay on the track, Paul.
But he went to Nazareth one time. It was completely covered in snow. They took the dryer out, cleared the racetrack, and he did a 500-mile test. And all he could use as reference points was the snow. He said it was the weirdest thing, having no or 0 reference points except the snow.
Paul Tracy's girlfriend, Sarah, she works in the pits, keeping track of Paul's progress around the circuit. You see him go off and on like that. Is that easy to do, or does that take some doing to be able to keep the car straight and back on the track?
No, it's easy for Tracy because he does it all the time. He's got good practice at it, but now, in fairness to him.
What about a mere mortal like you?
I can do it a few times, too. Tracy has been superb since Elkhart Lake. We saw him off the road many times at Elkhart Lake, but in fairness to him, he really has been spectacular and superb since then.
Well, of course, he has about the best racing instructor in the world in the person of Rick Mears, who has been rather animated with him. He's been in, they've been talking about it. Rick is not a guy who pulls punches. He'll tell you any secret he has, because if he's going to race with you, he wants to beat you on the racetrack. So he's helping Paul Tracy, as is everyone else on the team. Certainly Roger Penske. Look at the vortice coming off the back of the wing. That's due to the high humidity here in the low pressure area that's created. It creates some condensation, a contrail, as it were, at the back of the wing up here today. You're looking at the differential now between Rahal and Cheever. There goes Rahal through. Cheever climbing up just behind him. There he goes.
Rahal came here and tested, left without a happy feeling with the car. Could not get the car to work as well as he wanted on the tires. He and his engineer, Steve Newey, have tried all sorts of changes this weekend, and they believed this morning in the warm-up that they did, in fact, have a good handling race car. However, he's not able to run at the front.
Want to count Formula One champions here at this track? Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, and, of course, about to become IndyCar driver Nigel Mansell is a spectator here today as we watch Paul Tracy make his move around Fittipaldi. Let's go to Gary Jarrell.
Nigel was watching very closely as Michael got clear of the traffic and is now out at the lead of this pack. Nigel, we welcome you to IndyCar racing. For the American audience who's so excited about your arrival, what was the key that made you decide to go IndyCar racing, to give up Formula One after a world championship?
Well, I think all the credit's got to go to Paul Newman and Carl Haas with the Newman Haas team, and all the boys associated and sponsors. They spoke to me in a very positive manner, and basically I think your racing is very exciting and probably better than ours.
Was it a difficult decision to reach?
It was a decision that took a lot of commitment, obviously with moving the family and having 3 young children, but it's one that I've made and I'm very happy with. And I'll tell you, the one thing I can't get over being here this weekend is just how cooperative all the officials and racers are in the pit lane. It's marvelous.
The reception has been very positive for you. When does the testing begin?
It's been exciting, and the testing will begin in January.
All right, we wish you well. Nice to see you on this side of the pond. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Chloe, Leo, LeGreg. Got to say hello to the kids.
All right, Nigel Mansell now a member of the IndyCar family, Paul.
And, of course, we honor him as the reigning world champion. They got a great series going over there, too. I think he's going to enjoy his time in the IndyCars.
See, his last lap was actually faster. We can see that on our computer here. He is faster than Michael, but he's got a bad run in traffic, and that can mean so much here. So Michael still continues to control the race here as we watch our race summary.
Michael Andretti has led all the way. He's done everything necessary as he came into this race. He took the pole, led the most laps. Whether or not he can score a championship depends on Bobby Rahal, and Rahal running in 4th is where he needs to be to take the championship. So Rahal at this moment is not giving up anything. The real factor will be Eddie Cheever sitting just behind Rahal, who may try to battle in the closing laps. There's Nigel as he keeps track out from the edge of the circuit.
That's an illegal position. He's the only one that will be allowed to sit out there.
Sad when you're the world champion, do whatever you want.
What sort of a pass do you need to sit on the wall like that?
So Bobby Rahal still in 4th place, exactly where he wants to be. If he stays there, he leaves this race as the IndyCar champion for 1992. Michael Andretti, he's done everything absolutely necessary. He's led every lap here, sat on the pole, taken the point for the most laps. But it's all in Rahal's hands now. For Michael Andretti to win a championship, Bobby Rahal is going to have to make a desperate mistake.
And how things can change during the year. Remember back to Indy, Michael, total dominance, came away with 0 points. And at Mid-Ohio, another race, total dominance. Jimmy Vasser.
He tapped Jimmy Vasser as they came off the last turn onto the pit straight. Vasser gets going again. Tracy got going right away. But that ended that battle in the front, and that's just the kind of thing that could affect this other battle. Because if those cars are sitting in front of them, if they roll to a stop on the course, then all of a sudden, Bobby Rahal could have been there.
Now we need to see, has Tracy damaged the front of his car? Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Oh, he's off the road again. Yes, he did damage the car.
Something's wrong there, right front wing, look at it.
He's got an understeer situation. Tracy, his challenge to Michael is now over.
So the season has been so tight this entire year, and it's come down to these very final laps. They come onto the pit straight again. Watch the team. 2 laps to go. You saw Debbie Rahal hold up the fingers. The team, quick applause. Rahal flashes past, heads for the first turn. In 3rd place, no one in challenge to Rahal now. The Andretti family looks like they're looking at a 1st and 2nd finish, with Mario chasing his son to the flag. Down in the Andretti pits, they did everything they could possibly have done, but it was not enough. Gary Gerald is right there.
Well, normally, with a team running 1 and 2, it would be euphoric down here, but you don't get that sense in this pit today because they know that the championship is about to slide through their fingers. No opportunity to repeat. So what an irony. Michael and Mario going to go 1-2, it looks like, as we're in the final 2 laps, and yet there's no jubilation. The things, the anticipation you normally expect, not here at this point in the Newman Haas pit.
Michael Andretti comes down the hill just in front of him, the 16 AMAX car. Stefan Johansson, who has wrapped up the Rookie of the Year honors and will be driving that car for the remainder of the season. Here car for the remainder of next year as well. He signed on with Tony Bettenhausen for next year. On to the pit straight one more time. Completing the lap there underneath the bridge, Michael Andretti looking at a flag-to-flag win as the white flag comes out indicating 1 more lap to go, but still, he must be so very careful. Johansson lets him pass. Bobby Rahal comes past and down into the 1st turn in 3rd place and on his way to an IndyCar championship. To lose it now, something desperate would have to happen at that particular race car, dropping him well behind, and that is not likely.
Well, the only part of Michael Andretti's dream weekend that didn't fall into place was a lack of performance by Bobby Rahal. Otherwise, Michael has done everything possible, and I said it earlier on. Remember also, Mid-Ohio, total dominance, 0 points. How the whole season can come down to just 1 race, but really you have to look back on the full season to get the full picture of what happened in this championship.
On the last lap, no one in contest with Michael Andretti. He has passed Stefan Johansson. He has clear sailing for the 5th time in his IndyCar career. He is looking at a flag-to-flag win, a clean sweep. Down heading now for the final corner and the pit straight, and turning up toward Nick Fenaro's final checkered flag. Michael Andretti on the pit straight now. A perfect day as he takes the win for the Newman Haas team in the Kmart Texaco Haviland Lola. Now here comes the new champion as Bobby Rahal raises his fist in salute to his pits, and he takes the checkered flag as the champion for the IndyCars in 1992, his 3rd IndyCar championship.
Well, take your hat off and admire this group of people here. A new team, essentially a new team. Look at the jubilation with Carl Hogan. Comes back to IndyCar racing, and he will be in tears at the success that this team has had this season.
3 Andrettis in the top 5. Michael drives a perfect race weekend, takes the pole, leads all the laps, and takes the win. His father comes in right behind him as we look down through the entire order of the final standings as the championship goes to this, the very last race of the IndyCar season. And what a race it was. A spectacular afternoon. And what does all that do to the points? Well, now there is really only one number that matters. It's Bobby Rahal, 196 points. He is the champion.